Officials are moving ahead with ambitious plans for buildings and grade structure in the Boston public schools, but they're facing resistance over parts of the plan that call for closing 2 high schools and relocating a middle school from Dorchester to South Boston. Among the stakeholders in the plan are Boston teachers. Joining us are the president of the Boston Teachers Union, Jessica Tang, and a teacher at West Roxbury Academy, Allison Doherty. Thank you both for being with us.
Glad to be here.
I want to start with Allison. Your students got word just recently that their school is going to be closing, and how are they taking this?
Well, there are 2 schools in the building. I'm at Urban Science Academy, and the other school is West Roxbury Academy. The students are devastated. There's such a strong sense of community throughout the entire building, whether you have students in a substantially separated program who are connected to the general education students and the general education students themselves who have such a relationship with the other students and the teachers. They're devastated. They're concerned about becoming valedictorian, which you can't become if you leave, if you transfer within 2 years, or certain scholarships they won't be able to get, and their future. They're trying to focus on graduating from high school and passing the MCAS, and now they're worried about where they're going to go, and they're very devastated.
Well, there's more to this than different kinds of students getting along with each other, because this is an inclusive school, and what does that mean structurally?
So within the building, we have several substantially separated classrooms with students who are multi-handicapped or students with autism. We also have an inclusive program called Symphonize, which this is what I teach, and it's a pathway for diploma for students with a diagnosis of ASD, which is autism spectrum disorder. These students are fully included academically. They're on the West Roxbury High School football team, which are now city champions. They're involved in so many other activities, and they're included and accepted and cared for by the other students in our building. And it's a true family, and they're just absolutely devastated.
Jessica, saying the word from the school department is that the school is either being closed or relocated. Enrollment is down. There are some achievement problems, and the buildings have problems. So don't they have to do something about those?
Yeah, so we absolutely recognize that there are issues in the larger, bigger picture of Boston Public Schools, including, for example, the under-enrollment at the middle school and high school levels. And so we've never been resistant to a change that would address those challenges, but we've continuously advocated for is just a transparent process where we're able to look at the problem, look at the challenges, look at the data, and then come up with the best possible proposal that doesn't harm the students in the transition. And so we are absolutely supportive of new school buildings, of renovations, et cetera, and improving educational opportunities. We're for all of that. But our concern always is, how is this going to impact our most vulnerable students? And is there a plan that actually creates a better opportunity for the students in the transition, especially the students that aren't going to see those new buildings or renovations immediately? And especially for our highest need students, such as our special education students or EL students. And as Allison described, these schools do have autistic students, for example, at West Roxbury Educational Complex, and they need stability, and the relationships are really important. At the McCormick School, which is another one of the schools, they have a high population of students who just immigrated to the United States who are learning English, and they spoke over and over about how the McCormick is a second home to them. And I think that's what we're concerned about, is that schools are not just buildings, they're really communities of educators, parents, and students with relationships. And those relationships and that stability is fundamental to the success of the students. And I'd want to push back also on the portrayal that these are, the worst schools, because that's just not true, actually. Allison was just looking at data with her teachers earlier today, and she can speak a little bit more about that, but they are not the lowest performing schools in the district.
What about that, Allison?
Well, we were looking at the accountability data, and I can speak for Urban Science Academy. We have grown 18% over the last year, and out of the 21 9 through 12s in Boston, we are doing better than 14 of them. So that's just an example. We've done amazing work with our MCAS scores and everything else, and so for the district to turn around and say these things, they're not true. I know you can manipulate data to make it look as any way you want it to, but if you look at, we don't want to rely on data on everything, because there's way much more than student to students and learning than data, but it's not the truth. We're doing phenomenally compared to a lot of schools in the district.
This has been BPS News. We're talking with Jessica Tang and Allison Doherty from the Boston Teachers Union. Jessica, what about the students at the McCormick School? Their building's going to be fixed up for someone else, presumably. They're going to be shifted to South Boston, coupled with high school that's undergoing turnaround.
Right.
How do they feel about that?
So they are really upset about that. And again, I think it was a testament to the importance of the school communities, both at Urban Science, actually all three of them, West Roxbury and the McCormick, that with less than 24 hours notice, that school committee room was packed to testify about the importance of those school communities. And I think what's further a concern is that, again, we are not opposed to change. Even if their scores aren't the worst, we know that they're not the best. We want to improve our educational experiences. We want to be innovative and try new strategies that will actually improve student achievement, right? And these school communities, though, were already engaged in that process, both at West Roxbury Educational Complex and at the McCormick. They had already been undergoing possible proposals to figure out if we did transition 7 through 12, which high schools might be a good fit to partner with and merge with. How can we improve the educational programming? How do we take this as an opportunity, right? And that's what I think is missed here, is that this is an opportunity, but the way that it's being rolled out, we're losing the opportunity to really put our best heads together and figure out, is this the best proposal or is there something better? And that's what they were trying to work on, and had already had conversations with a lot of people. And they're very practical concerns. For example, I think 80% of the McCormick is actually Spanish speaking, and a huge percentage is English language learners, and they don't have that program actually at Excel High School. So what would happen to that very important program at the McCormick if they were to transition to Excel?
Couldn't they export that program along with the students?
Well, they could, but it only goes up to 8th grade. So then if they want to merge with Excel, what would happen after the 8th grade, right? And so what they're saying is, again, not opposed to leaving the school building for a short period of time while the building gets renovated, but they would like to be able to move back in and actually take those couple of years to continue the planning process that they've already engaged in and spent hundreds of hours on their own time of their own initiative to come up with a better plan.
Allison, your school has this urban science focus. Don't you think the city will try to replicate that someplace else or expand the school to fit that in?
The proposal that they've said right now is that they are going to transfer students out, and some of the specialized programs may be intact. That might mean with teachers, that might not mean with their teachers. So they have not proposed anything about carrying this theme anywhere else. They're saying that there's no room for us anywhere else. There's no other swing space. There's just no other options. They've looked at everywhere. They've left no stone unturned, and this is the best they can do. I don't believe that. The students don't believe that. The parents don't believe that. The teachers don't believe that. I don't think the teachers union believes that. We do want to move forward and have better schools for our students, but yet not having collateral damage of all of these children. That is just not fair. There is a better way to do this, and we can do it collectively, and we can all sit down at the table and have it be. We can do it with each other and not have them do it to us. It just doesn't make sense to me. I can't even wrap my mind around it.
Jessica, I'm sure you've heard some language with the second phase of this plan about helping students with transition, but beyond that, what would you like to hear?
I think it's not just about the transition, it's also how is this actually going to provide greater educational opportunities and greater equity throughout the system. And again, that's one of the, I think, issues that is confusing to a lot of people because one of the goals, stated goals, right, is better educational outcomes or educational opportunities. And then also incentivizing schools that have the higher needs populations to be able to move into the new buildings. And here we have a school, the McCormick, which is already serving 2 high needs populations. They have, a special education EI strand. They also have, the SLIFE program. And that's exactly the type of school they want to be able to build the new school buildings for according to the proposal. And here we have one, but they're not having the opportunity to move back in. And so I think that's what we object to. And again, like Allison said, we want to work collaboratively with the district to figure out what is the best proposal and how do we meet the goals without, again, harming the current students who would be unable to access those opportunities currently, potentially.
Thank you both very much, Jessica Tang and Allison Doherty. In a moment, a preview of this year's Boston Jewish Film Festival.